Hi friends, and I'm back with another video, and Lord, you look at that, there's no more rainwater. Hey, hi, hello friends. Sorry for the unexpected break, and this time it was more unexpected than normal. If you guys don't know, I'm on the East Coast right now visiting my family, and Hurricane Ida wrecked our shit for a little bit. My parents' house was thankfully spared. We didn't have that much. Honestly, we're very, very blessed. We had a little bit of water in our basement, like 2 inches, 3 inches of water, which is like a problem because my parents' basement is like complete. It's not an incomplete basement, so they've got like carpeting and there's a bedroom down there and everything. So took a little bit of while to clean everything out, and then we had some water contamination. So no drinkable water and then no electricity for a little while, and it was like a mess. But my brother is right now, because he's staying in his own place. They had like a lot more flooding. He couldn't like leave, even though he's really only 15 minutes away. He literally couldn't even come home. My sister's school shut down. It was like a whole ordeal here. Like there was a lot of water, and still we weren't even the worst hit area in the U.S. due to Ida. I'm gonna leave a link down below if you guys want to donate. You don't have to, of course. I always say this for Patreon, for anything. Nothing is obligatory, but genuinely people are hurting. And if you've got a little extra change to spare, I know that people would really appreciate it. So that's going to be linked down below. Let's jump into it. So today's video is going to be a little bit different. I'm going to be talking about Chantal's video, where it's titled "I'm Sorry." I know this react is going to be a couple days old. Nothing new about that. I'm always at least a couple days old with my videos, but in particular, I wanted to talk about this video because of what she said about Shannon in her previous video, the apology that she gave, and kind of my feelings on it. And then more importantly, I spoke with Shannon. I don't know how she stumbled across my video. It's very weird to me when anyone shows any kind of like, when my videos get any kind of notoriety, because I'm such a small channel. I don't really have a lot of like influence or pull or anything like that. And you guys know I try not to be. I'm not very divisive. I don't like take shots at anyone. I'm not like one of the more polarized channels out there. I'm not very firm in my opinions. I'm just sort of in the middle for most things. And so it always weirds me out when people like watch my stuff and they're like surprised. Oh, I didn't have my mic on. So if my audio quality was a little weird, then forgive me. But I'm always a little surprised when people know who I am, especially because I've discussed Shannon in the context of Chantal before. So I was really shocked and very pleased that she reached out to me. She was very kind. She answered a lot of questions. We had an entire conversation on Twitter about it. And I kind of wanted to give you guys my thoughts on that, as well as the video that Chantal made, quote unquote, apologizing to Shannon. So I'm going to start out with the Twitter conversation, and then we're going to get into what Chantal talked about in her video. So I'll get permission from her first. So if I do get permission from her about putting the screenshots in the video, I will. Other than that, I mean, I did ask her if she'd be okay with me sharing this conversation in a video. She was okay with it. I don't know if she's okay with me sharing exact screenshots. So for now, I might just leave it out of this video. But if anyone wants to see them or wants proof or whatever, I'll check with her. She's okay with me releasing DMs, and then I will do that. I don't feel comfortable doing it without asking her. I hope you guys are okay with it. But yeah, so she told me that her and Chantal have been friends for 23 years. This is the first big fight that they've ever had, and that she started, she reached out to her and started watching her channel again in this past May, and she found out that she was smoking meth, which is why she was like surprised by that. She was a little like startled, and she really was upset with the way that Dom was treating her. She really didn't like the fact that she was in this toxic relationship. Like a lot of us have noticed, Chantal's had a significant mental decline since she's encountered Dom, right? Not even taking into consideration that he might have introduced her to the drugs that she's currently addicted to. So like a good friend, she was concerned, and she wanted to talk to Chantal about it. And she said that her mom doesn't really watch her channel, which I was surprised to hear, because I was under the impression from what Chantal has said that her family does watch her channel, though it would make a lot of sense for her mom to not watch. I don't know the kind of personality that her mom has. I don't know very much anything about her, and I personally don't want to go digging. But if I was a mom and I had a kid who acted the way that Chantal did and I had no impact on their life, at some point, for self-preservation reasons, if for nothing else, I would check out and take a little bit of a step back. Because if the person that I'm talking to is not willing to talk to me, they're not willing to engage with me, the only thing they're willing to do is whatever they want to do, regardless of what I have to say, there comes a point where you think to yourself, is it worth me continuing to be so heavily involved in their life when I can have no impact on it? And they're going to continuously do things that are going to affect me, especially if you have a second kid that you also have to worry about, right? Like, it doesn't matter whether Chantal's the train wreck and her sister is like, you know, the most upstanding citizen. It doesn't, regardless of that, you love your children equally. And so there's a certain amount of like natural, I think, allocated worry with that comes with being a decent parent in any situation. And so I would think that her mom would take a step back. So it's not surprising as such to find that out. It's just, I am a little shocked because from everything that Chantal has said, I was under the impression that her family did watch it. Though Chantal lies, the first rule of this business, right? And she said that when she was at work, Chantal texted her, letting her know that, you know, Nader had been abusing her, and she got pretty upset by that. You know, you guys have probably seen the screenshots that are floating around as well. I'm not gonna put them in this video. She said what she said. I have opinions on what she said, but I can also see from her point of view that if you're friends with someone, like, I told doing what I do in a professional setting, I come across a lot of people in a lot of tiny pieces. And I told my best friend's current husband this. I say current husband as in she has more than one. Her husband right now, I told him this when they got married, that if he ever hurt her, I would make his entire body disappear. No one will ever find him again. And am I being a little bit boastful? Yes. If he put a hand on her, would I actually kill him? 100%. That is not a threat. That is, in fact, a promise. So I can understand being really, really upset. Now, I think she could have acted with a lot more forethought. I think she could have been a lot more cautious about the way that she went about things. But I do believe that her heart was in the right place. I mean, your gut reaction when you find out that a friend of yours is being abused is not, oh, do you think she'd be okay with me talking to her abuser like this? It's more, what the fuck? How can someone do this to my friend? If you're a good friend, right? That's how you would think. So, and, you know, Chantal had apparently told her that, you know, she's really sorry and, you know, I don't know what to do and all these things. And so Shannon goes ahead and contacts Chantal's mom. And she lets her know the whole story. At this point, Chantal comes back online, denies everything, and she's saying that she's in love with him and how great he is and blah, 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 and like essentially just painting this incredibly rosy picture of something that's never actually happened. I need a little bit of ice water to keep my throat moist because there's going to be a lot of talking in this video and I really want to get all my points across. So, you know, and I can understand watching this how someone would just get more and more upset that here you are having this behind the scenes conversation. And Shannon expresses as much that she's having this behind the scenes conversation with Chantal, where Chantal is saying, he hit me. He's been abusive. He's been awful to me. And you guys have seen the exact screenshots that are floating around out there as well. Some of the DMs have been leaked. And so you can understand the state of mind that Shannon would be in looking at the way this man has treated her friend historically. The best way to determine the course of future actions is to study history, which is why like the study of history is so important. Like a really good example of that is during World War I, the invasion plan that Germany had was the exact same one that they used during World War II. So they like invaded through Belgium, I do believe, the first time around. They invaded through Belgium again the second time around when they came to France. So if you don't learn from history, you are very much doomed to repeat it. And the best indicator of a person's future actions are their past actions. So you see this man hitting your friend and you think to yourself, what do I do? And you get mad, you lash out, you try and reach out to his friend, nothing is happening. And I can understand getting so mad that you just want to rage at someone. I don't think it's the most effective thing to do, 100%. I don't think they would be the actions that I would advise to someone, but I can also see that I might myself react in that way. Like, honestly, I've said before, I have temper issues myself. And if I found out that someone was hurting my friend, I don't know. I don't know what I would do. I might do the same thing that she did too. And, you know, Chantal and her apparently made up for about a week. And he was, you know, really, really mad about this development because she'd said some pretty nasty things. And so he started like reaching out to her husband and messaging him, and then, you know, he started calling her, and she answered the phone one time and told him to fuck himself, and he like called back 30 more times, and he's essentially just spewing vitriol at her as well. And he threatened to come see her, and that's, I think, maybe taking it a step too far. I think if you are calling somebody 30 times a day, it doesn't matter what your context is. It doesn't matter what you were trying to do. Like I've had, like my mom's a worry ward, and occasionally she'll do that to me. She'll call me like 10 times in a row. And I've told her this, it is irrelevant what you think your intent here is. If you are calling somebody 30 times a day, automatically what you're saying is like less valid. Like you cannot be doing that. That is a level of obsession that I don't think is okay. And it doesn't, my mom does it because she's worried. She's scared something could have happened to me. This man is doing it so he can hurl vitriol at someone who clearly doesn't like him because of his own actions. So it doesn't matter though. When Chantal did it, it was wrong. When he did it, it's wrong. When my mom does it, it's wrong. It's wrong in all contexts. Don't be calling people like 50 times a day unless you think there's imminent danger to them. And I mean like rational imminent danger, not like the way my mom has, which is just like extreme generalized anxiety. Sorry if I'm looking down a lot on this video, by the way. I have her messages pulled up here so I can read to you guys sort of from them. So I'm going to be looking kind of like in this direction. So she sent all of the screenshots of like what he'd been sending her to Chantal. They had a conversation. She spoke to her mom a few days later again. And, you know, I told her that I can't talk to Chantal if she's with him. And I can understand that because this man is hurling vitriol at someone who's had a past with abusive relationships herself. And, you know, her mom turns around and says to her, well, are you sure that she's with him? Because she told me that she's not with him anymore. And that is terrible. That she's telling her parents one thing and then she's telling her friend another thing, and she might be spinning a completely different story on YouTube. And it's hard, right? When you can't actually verify the truth with anyone, it's really hard to tell whether or not you really have a complete picture of what's going on. So she told her mom that she's pretty positive that she's with this guy again, and her mom called her and flipped out at her apparently, and then Chantal blocked her again. And for the last like however long since I've spoken to Shannon, she's basically just gone online and just called her a piece of shit and a liar. And Shannon maintains that she hasn't lied, that she's been as honest as she can. Now, I will preface this by saying that there are three sides to every story. There's Chantal's side, there's Shannon's side, and then there's like the objective truth of the matter. And a lot of times truth for us comes down to how we interpret a certain series of events. Like when I told my mom that I bought my ticket, I'm going to be going back. And she said, well, you said you were going to be going in October. And I said, no, I could stay until October, if you were having your surgery. But since your surgery's been pushed back, it doesn't make sense for me to stay and I've got work, right? And she interpreted me saying that I could stay until October as I am staying until October. You see? And there's other things that happen like that too, right? Like where you talk to a friend and you don't mean anything by what you said, but they interpret it in a certain way. We all bring our lived experiences, the way that we've experienced relationships, life, everything into every conversation and situation that we have. So when we're talking to somebody, when we're experiencing a situation with somebody, even though the circumstances are exactly the same in that moment, all of the past history that we have is not. And so we interpret events in a different way. So what Chantal experienced and what Shannon experienced might not necessarily line up. And that isn't to say that anyone is lying. That's a very long-winded way of me saying I don't think anyone is lying in this situation. To a certain extent, I don't always believe Chantal, but and this is kind of around the time that, she goes into FFB's chats, because here she's had this conversation with Chantal's mom. She's had this conversation with Chantal. This guy has been spewing vitriol at her and threatening her. And Chantal comes on live again and she's like lying about what Shannon has and has not done. And that's when she sort of goes off in FFG's chat. I don't know if I think that this is a good idea. I can understand. I mean, she's speaking to me right now, and I really appreciate that. Don't get me wrong. I don't think it's going to endear her to Chantal, but I don't think there's any saving that relationship at this point. And I can understand being in this situation, thinking to yourself, if I can't salvage this anyway, why am I letting this woman ruin my reputation online, right? It's not just a matter of, like, I don't know a lot of the people on the internet, but I still care if people think I'm a massive liar, if I'm a massive hypocrite. It affects me to a certain degree, right? And there are people connected to Chantal's channel that are actual IRL people. So it's not just randos on the internet. You guys don't know, like, who I am, right? So you guys don't know, like, where I live exactly. You don't know a lot of stuff about me, but that's not true with Chantal. It'd be like a hop, skip, and a stone throw away to find out who Shannon is. I'm sure this information is already out there. I will not look for it and I will not put it up here, but I can understand Shannon not wanting this to bleed over into her real life and having people in her real life think, oh, Shannon is like this, you know? I can understand her wanting to say what she said. And Chantal has blocked her at this point, so it's not like she has anywhere else to go and really say anything. And just like Chantal comes online, she's like, well, I was just defending myself. I can understand Shannon's point of view of thinking, well, I need to prove that I'm not lying here, that I haven't lied about anything. So the other thing that Shannon discusses is she says that, you know, I've abused every boyfriend that I've ever been in a relationship with. And she says that her words are, they like to hit me, so yeah, I would defend myself. My last ex almost killed me. I had to live in a woman's shelter with my 2 kids for 2 months. That is so heartbreaking, and I am so sorry. Like, that is an awful thing for anyone to experience, especially when you have kids, because I can only imagine that that's like a special type of terrifying, right? That there's the worry and the insecurity that you feel towards, like, your own safety. And then you have the added, like, layer of, oh crap, my kids are here. And there's so much anxiety that comes with having a children. Like, I have friends who have kids now, and honestly, it is a terrifying, difficult job. So to add this on top of everything else is absolutely heartbreaking to me. And to, you know, Chantal's point where, you know, if there were such bad people, they'd be in jail, blah, blah, blah. I know she said it in a different context, but still, you know, he did go to jail. He was charged and he went to prison for a year. Sadly, domestic violence laws are, in my personal opinion, really weak, and a lot of times abusers are let out when they should remain in jail forever and maybe launched directly into the sun. Anyway, feelings on that aside, she talks about how she would defend herself. And I said, I don't know if I've left it in a video, I might have cut it out, that saying that you are in a toxic relationship or saying that you both abused each other when one person is the instigator and the other person is the defender is really not a fair way to frame a complex domestic violence situation. There are cases in which both people are genuinely toxic for each other, but like I will say in the Amber Heard and Johnny Depp situation, it's not as clear cut as that. Because you push someone away and they hit their head doesn't make you the instigator when the other person has been verbally and physically assaulting you for like 2 months before that point. It just, you can't convince me of it otherwise. The psychology there isn't as black and white as that. So for Chantal to come online and to recontextualize the situation as, oh, well, she abused her boyfriends is very, very toxic, because that is something that a lot of abuse victims suffer, right? That is something that they've been made to believe, that they are in part also toxic, that they are in part responsible, or a lot of times that they are the only party responsible for the situation that they're in. And that's a horrifying feeling to go through. That's a horrifying feeling to put on someone, especially when they're suffering continuously physical violence at the hands of another person. And this is the same situation that, you know, Gabby Hanna also talked about. She's like, Jesse Smiles, you are my abuser. You are saying this to a woman who was the victim of sexual assault. You're recontextualizing forgive me for saying this, I can't think of another word, but you're recontextualizing the experiences of a victim and putting them in the role of their abuser. I can't think of anything more harmful. And I can totally understand that when you hear things like that from someone else, I can understand that Chantal is mentally ill. I can understand that she's going through a lot, but that doesn't make it okay for her to behave the way that she did. I asked her some follow-up questions just to get some clarification on some stuff, and she said that some of her family watches her channel, and yes, she knew about the abuse and the shelter before she said any of this. So when she said that, you know, you've abused every boyfriend, she knew that this is a friend of 23 years who she's talking to, who was the victim of domestic assault, which their partner went to jail from, where they stayed in a women's shelter, and she still went ahead and she said all of these toxic, nauseous things to her. That is horrifying to me. It's absolutely horrifying to me. And I also asked her for clarification that, you know, was she friends with you when you were going through this domestic violence situation? I wanted to know what Chantal's reaction to that was. And she said that, you know, when the abuse was happening, she dumped her. Chantal dumped Shannon. And Shannon says that that's perfectly fine. I don't necessarily think that that's okay. I think that to a certain extent, everyone needs to think about their own mental health and their own mental health struggles, which is why I don't agree with Chantal just being like, well, her family will always be there for her, because no, sometimes you have to take protective measures for yourself against other people. That's why if you have a friend who's going through a lot, but you don't feel like you're mentally equipped to deal with it, like, it's totally within your rights to turn to them and say, hey, I don't think I'm ready to deal with this. I don't think I have the mental space for it right now. Can we talk about it another time? And I think that if they're a real friend, they'll recognize that, hey, you're dealing with a lot yourself right now. You don't have the capacity for it. And then one day, you know, maybe you can return the favor and you can be like, hey, I need to talk to you about something. And they say, I don't know if I can really right now. And you say, you know what? Totally understand. And that's why you have therapists, right? Because then you can talk to them. You can give them any piece of information you need to. And their job is to literally have that capacity for you, to always be able to discuss your problems with you, to help you come to a solution, to help you see your problems in a light in which you can solve them, quote unquote, solve them. I don't really like that term as such, because therapy isn't about wholesale fixing yourself. It's about trying to work through your problems, right? So I don't know if I agree with her saying that that's perfectly fine. I'm sorry that she feels that way, and it really sucks that she feels that her friends weren't there for her. I would hope that it's only because they were maybe struggling with something themselves, but I don't think that's true for Chantal. I don't think that she dumped Shannon because she just had too much going on in her life. I think that Chantal is a very fair weather friend, the kind of person who's there for you when stuff is great, and the kind of person who's completely gone when stuff gets hard, even though she expects absolutely everything from everyone else. That's also why she's unwilling to make the effort to actually talk to her friends like Raina and Shannon, and even do stuff for Pete's, because she's like, well, you know, they're adults, they can deal with it themselves. But then when stuff gets hard in her life, she's like, I don't understand, you know, I just need a lot of support right now. You can't have it both ways. You can't always be the person requesting support and never be the person giving the support, because then you won't have support systems. This is how you maintain your support system, is you lean on each other back and forth and back and forth. My two best friends in the entire world, like, I love them 2 bits. If I had problems, I'd be able to talk to them about it. I feel 100% I'd be able to talk to them about it. But just the same, they can talk to me about their problems. They can let me know what's happening in their lives. I'm perfectly open and willing to listen to them and talk to them. And there's like complicated stuff that goes on in our friendship. It isn't just as straightforward as like we're always happy and perfectly fine together. We've had fights, like ugly fights. We have complicated family stuff happening. But you don't abandon your friends because it gets hard. You try and work through it if you're a real friend. And if Chantal is going to call her her best friend, then I think Chantal owed it to Shannon to stick by her, and she didn't. So I'm surprised that Chantal is surprised that Shannon would go and talk to FFG. If you couldn't be there during her domestic violence situation, if you couldn't be the support that she needed, I'm unsure why you think that she owes you all of this loyalty and support and care and love. It's genuinely shocking to me. Like, I wouldn't just go up to like a random friend and just be like, oh, hey, I'm having this really tough situation in my life, and then not expect them to like not say anything to anybody else. We don't have the kind of relationship that means that you understand what I would want and what I need, and be able to draw a line between those two things and figure out what the best path for me would be. I had, I also spoke to her. I asked her, if her and Nader had, Koki had exchanged words, and, did she contact Nader? Did he contact her first? And she said that I messaged him on Messenger after she told me that he beat her, and they exchanged words, and he started harassing her for about a week and a half after that. So And I think the reason why he started harassing her is because I think that Koki tried to force Chantal into ending their friendship. And when they rekindled their friendship, even after the initial sort of, the initial point of contact when it all went downwards, he got really, really belligerent. He's like, all right, well, if, you know, Chantal isn't doing it, then maybe I can get her to do it. And when she wouldn't do it, he went back to Chantal and he got Chantal to do what he couldn't. She's just... I did ask her to clarify that, you know, was it only the one time if he'd abused her, if it had been multiple instances of continued abuse? And she said that she didn't specify, Chantal didn't specify, but that she knows that it was more than once. And I'm not sure how she knows. I didn't really get to ask her about that, honestly, partially because of the storm. Everything just sort of went a little topsy-turvy. But I don't know. I feel a lot of ways about this. I feel a lot of ways about the whole way that the Shannon situation went down. Because it's one thing for Chantal to treat her online friends this way. I've said to you guys before, I don't think Chantal thinks any of the online people who she speaks to are actual real human beings, like actualized in their own lives. I think she thinks they're only just numbers and letters on a screen. They're just money in her bank account. They're just positive affirmations for her. So I don't think she really sees them as full people in their own light. And I find that honestly kind of a little bit distressing and a little disturbing. And the fact that she treated somebody from her real life like this makes me think that maybe she just doesn't see other people as much people as they should be seen. I don't know if that made any kind of sense. What I mean to say is that I'm not diagnosing her with anything. I'm giving you guys an example. Please be abundantly clear on that. This is not me diagnosing it. This is not me calling her anything. This is me giving you an example of how I think she treats other people. A lot of times, people who have psychopathy, borderline personality disorder, or sociopathy, they tend to look at other people as being less human than they are. That they're the only ones who are fully actualized in their own feelings with complex thoughts, feelings, and emotions. And everybody else is just sort of like a duller version of them, closer to animals than actual people in some cases. And I think that she might feel a similar way. That's not to say once more that I think she has BPD or any of those other things. Not at all. And a lot of the negative connotation that comes with them comes from like shows like, you know, Criminal Minds and CSI and all that stuff, right? This is not me saying that at all. But I do think that Chantal does not see other people as being fully well-developed human beings on their own. I think she sees a lot, like I think she sees her family as an extension of herself, just something to rely on and to draw comfort from without really giving anything back in return. I think she sees her cats the same way, and I think to a certain degree she sees Pete's the same way. And I think everyone else in her life she sees as just being there. They're just other creatures. They don't have the problems that she does. They don't have the same feelings that she does. They don't feel things as deeply or as profoundly as she does. And that's why it's easy for her to dismiss that, you know, they could be suffering from the same things that she is. That's why it's so hard for her to imagine a situation in which she is not like, doesn't suffer from like terminal uniqueness, that her problems are not that special, and that there are people out there who can help her, and that she doesn't know everything about everything. In my last video, I had talked about her having oppositional defiant disorder. I think I'll dig a little bit more into that. I might put like a little bit of a prelude in the beginning of that video too and just talk about it. This was a really long prelude, but I still do want to do a react to her I'm Sorry video. It's got about 6.5 minutes worth of content there. I'm going to go through it pretty fast, I think, because a lot of what I said, I have said here. But I want to touch on a few points from there. This will probably be an hour-long video. I apologize. I try to keep these as short as possible, but you guys know, gift of gab. And then the next video, I'll dig a little bit more into oppositional defiant disorder, what it is, and how I think it applies in Chantal's case. Once more, this is not me diagnosing her with anything at all, even a little bit. This is just me saying that there are some similarities between, because I know someone whose son has this. So when I look at the way that that child acts and the way that Chantal acts, it's kind of what triggered me to think that there's a lot more similarities between them than I feel happy about, and it would explain a lot of her behavior. So with all that said, let's jump into the actual react.
I woke up and I felt like, oh God, like I had been drinking all night, and I did some messed up things. Um, or said some things I shouldn't have said. Hi, Casa Vegas. I
Okay. She starts the video off by essentially just saying, well, I woke up feeling like I was drunk. And I think the reason for this is because drinking is a much more classic addiction. It's much more familiar to people than like weed addiction is, or that like food addiction is, or where her other forms of cross addiction that she often displays on her channel. And so it's very easy to draw sympathy for that. Like, remember, I'm an addict. Remember, I'm an addict. Remember, I'm also suffering. Remember that. Without ever actually saying that, hey, I'm using this in the same way that people use weed, right? And the other thing it displays is that she had so much, she was so high off her face that she's suffering serious ill effects of it in the morning, which is unusual for weed. It's a fairly mild drug. The other thing, sorry, I say this a lot, the other thing, but she also does this really irritating thing where she'll be talking about something very serious in a thread, and then she goes, oh, hi, X, Y, and Z. Or she'll say, oh, BBJ. And we've discussed this before, and I'm not like a new creator for saying this, but she does use them a lot as a form of distraction to sort of keep herself from fully realizing what she did or what she said as being truly awful. And it's easy for her to use that as a break so that she doesn't have to like process it internally and then absorb what her own actions were in a way, right? Like it's easy for her to say, oh, I shouldn't have done that, without saying I did something wrong. And that's the disconnect that she often has. She says she thinks that the action that was done was bad, but she did not do anything wrong, like, oh, this situation sucks, but she never processes to the point of I caused this situation and therefore I suck, because those two things she doesn't like to think about as being connected. There's like all cause and no effect with Chantal.
um didn't mean to say that about Shannon. Like, I think I was just saying what happened, but then I was like, oh yeah, well, she outed me. Like, kind of like petty like that. Because I am very hurt by what she did, obviously.
Two things here. One, Chantal mentioned some stuff from Shannon's past, that they were like a family together, they did drugs together. I don't know, like it's hard for me to really say anything to that effect because I don't trust Chantal all that much, so I don't know how much of that is exactly correct, and I haven't had the opportunity to ask Shannon about it, so I'm not really willing to like say, okay, this did happen or why it would be okay or whatever. What I can also say though is that people do things in the past that don't necessarily reflect who they are anymore, and I don't think everyone needs to like come be up for it and be like, I apologize for this, because words are cheap and they're very easy. I can say anything I want right now. It doesn't mean anything unless there's follow through to it. That's why I think a much more clear example is like behavior of what people have done in the past and what they're doing now. So with Shannon, she seems to be like in a healthy, stable relationship. Her kids seem to be in a healthy, stable position. And she's like a well-adjusted, normal human being from what we've seen on the internet, right? So when Chantal says stuff like, well, she did X, Y, and Z in the past, okay, but it's in the past, right? Is it impacting what she's doing now? Is it hurting what is happening in her life right now, or not? Because if it's not hurting her and she's a good person now, then I don't think actions from the past necessarily dictate who you are. It's a pattern of behavior that's concerning. People have one-off days. People have bad choices that they make once in a while. It doesn't reflect necessarily who they are as long as it's the only time or the one time they did it. It just means that they're people. People fuck up inevitably. That's why I'm never like sad to be called out when people are like, no, I think you're not right about that. Like I said in one of my videos that I don't know if outing can be used in a non LGBTQIA plus context, and a lot of people were very kind and they came to me and they're like, hey, no, outing is a term that's been used well before it was used by the LGBTQIA plus community, and that Chantal's a little bit of an older generation, and so it's very possible that she's using it right now. And even if she wasn't and it's someone else using it, I don't think necessarily that it's just restricted to them. And considering that I am neither part of the generation that Chantal is in, nor am I part of the LGBTQIA plus community, it's not really something that I can speak to with authority. And that's okay. I've said before, I don't mind being wrong. I'm a human being. I've fucked up in the past and I'll fuck up again. It's just a matter of owning up to it and changing your behavior and moving forward with it. So this is me saying, all right, cool. I didn't know that. That's something else I know now. And I'll be better about making that assumption in the future. You know, it's just how you continue forward that differentiates you.
Maybe her intentions are to keep me safe. But I'm still hurt that she did that because, like, if you can't trust your best friend, who can you trust, right? Nobody. That's how I feel right now.
Yes and no, but I've already discussed in the past that you guys were, like, non-communicating status for a very long period of time, and you dumped her when she was going through something really hard. So how can you turn around and be like, well, she's my best friend? I don't understand how she could do this to me when we're best friends. You guys weren't best friends. You guys weren't good friends when she was going through her hard time. Why weren't you there for her then? I can understand Shannon taking harsh steps if you put it in the context of her own situation that Chantal is very well aware of, that Chantal is now choosing to weaponize against her.
Anyway, I got way too messed up, and I see it as a bit of a problem that that I have to be like that. I don't know, I get just too much, like, it's like all or nothing for me, I think people are right about some things.
I will give her that, yeah, I agree with her on that. She is very much so an all or nothing kind of person. Same thing with friendship, same thing with love. You either love me or you hate me. You're either a fan or you're a hater. There's no middle ground. There's no gray areas with her. Like, I can't be someone who genuinely enjoys watching Chantal's time warps, think that they're fun and entertaining, and at the same time have genuine serious issues with 90% of her content nowadays. I can't be someone who loves everything she does on the internet but is still immensely worried about her. I can't be a family member who loves her to bits but can't stand to see what she's become. There's no in between with her. So she can't, I don't think that it's within her capabilities to process that this person was a friend and they care about me and they reacted in a way that I don't like, but that they were doing it from a place of love and therefore should be forgiven. Even though she often asks for forgiveness from her audience, from her family members for acting rashly and impatiently and making sudden decisions and having a negative impact on everybody around her. She often asks to be forgiven for those things because she's like, well, I'm just impulsive. But that same action in someone else is unforgivable to her. She has no ability to recognize that other people are complex human beings in their own right who often suffer from the same problems that she could be suffering from. That's why she thinks that we're bullying her. When I've said before that whether I like it or not, I relate to Chantal a lot more than I care to. And that's why I talk about her. That's why I feel like I have some authority in the subject that I can offer my opinion or two. Because Chantal does awful, shitty things all of the time. But sometimes what she says and does gives me that same feeling that I used to have when I said and did similar things. You know what I mean? Like, there's some things that she does that resonate with me, that harken back to like a worse time in my life when I was a worse version of myself. And I think that's the reason why a lot of people talk about her. But she doesn't have the ability to recognize that. She doesn't have the ability to really like think about why people would want to talk about it. That's why she thinks that we're all bullying and shaming her, when in reality a lot of people are just discussing stuff that she has done in a context in which they understand it.
Maybe I just have to
be a better person.
We get sad, Chantal, today. Yeah, well, I'm not feeling the greatest, and I'm just so stressed out with everything. I guess I'm just trying to numb myself.
And once more, this is a play for sympathy. She's on here, she should be apologizing for someone, but she starts off this video by saying, well, I was really messed up. It was genuinely a problem. Sorry. But, she did this to me. So there is like justification, there is deflection, and here there is a play for sympathy, right there, where she's talking about, well, you know, I'm not doing very well. And we all know what she's implying, that her grandmother is sick and it's been really hard on her. I'm sorry your grandma's sick, and I'm sorry it's been hard on you. But shit behavior is shit behavior, no matter of who's sick and who's in the hospital. You've been a shitty friend to her for a pretty long period of time, it seems like, and you've been shitty to other people before that. So don't come on here crying and saying, well, you know, I'm not normally like this. You're always like this. You're always a bitch 9 times out of 10. And you and I both know it.
I think it just, I don't realize maybe, because I just always like, it's just weed, which it is just weed, it's better than coke, but I'm kind of like replacing the coke with the weed, so that's not healthy either, you know what I mean? Like, I'm using it for an unhealthy reason.
And I think this is the crux of the problem with a lot of the quote-unquote new age addictions. So you have people who are like addicted to exercise, you have people who are addicted to the internet, you've got like porn addicts, a lot of these things that in and of themselves are not bad things, right? I don't think individually any one of those things is harmful as long as it's taken in small quantities. But it's like an obsession. When anything you do, it becomes obsessive in its nature, it's bad for you. Because it becomes a crutch. You're using this to avoid doing something else. You're using this to avoid thinking about something else. What is that something else? That's what she should be working on in therapy with her therapist. She's not doing. But that's why this has become so unhealthy for her. Because she is acting this way. Because she's using this to numb something, the same way that she was using food. You know, and I mean, cross addiction is nothing new to be discussed on our channel. She needs to grow up, and she needs to go talk to someone, have like serious therapy with someone to fix what it is that's at the root of all of these addictions, because they all stem from the same place, because she uses everything in her life the same way, the exact same pattern. And I think that if Chantal ever loses weight, like a serious amount of weight, I think that her weight's gonna yo-yo rapidly. I think she's gonna lose a bunch of weight, she's gonna gain weight, she's gonna lose weight, she's gonna gain weight. She's gonna be those people who works out 4 hours a day every day and take that to an unhealthy place. I don't think that Chantal has the capability of just being in the middle of anything right now. Same thing with love, same thing with having a boyfriend. I think she's either going to be very cold towards them, show them no affection, no love, no care, the way she does with Pete's, or she's going to completely and utterly ghost them. Or she's going to completely and utterly be obsessed with them, be completely gone on them, call them 50 times a day like she does with Dom. She doesn't have the ability to moderate anything in her life.
If you did coke with Shannon at the graduation you drove by, I waited a little while, like I did some, and then I waited a while. Like, the buzz lasts like 15-30 minutes. So my impression is you can drive when you're no longer high, right? I mean, I don't know what's the law? How long do you wait until after you drive? But yes.
Okay. This is something that deeply upsets me. She starts this off by saying, well, you know, I waited, you know, I did coke with Shannon at the graduation party. Then I waited, and then I left. But did you see the really, really long period of time between those two things? If you know, if there's an accurate version of events and you already know what's happened, you would just be like, oh yeah, I did this, it's fine. But there's not. She knows that she had to think about this for a minute. She's like, how long does the high last? Right. And then I would have to wait. And then be safe, right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, okay. So I waited for a little bit and then I left. Like, it took her a second to concoct the story. I don't think that she waited. I think she just did the coke and then she left. That she might have just done the coke, waited a couple minutes while she was really, really high, and then she might have left. But there's a big difference between no longer being super high and still suffering from the after effects of something like cocaine. And I said before that Chantal, being the weight that she is at a higher risk for some of the complications that come with cocaine, right? Like, stroke is a big one for her. If she was behind the wheel of a car and she had a stroke because she'd just done cocaine, she is still, I don't care. And someone dies because of that accident, that is still your fucking fault. I don't care that it was technically the stroke and not the cocaine that did it. Because you chose to get high, and you chose to get behind the wheel of the car, and you chose not to wait until all the effects of the drug had worn off. I don't know at the top of my head how long it is before it's safe for her to get behind the wheel of a car. But you know what? I don't need to know. I'm not a drug addict. But I can also tell you this, it's not 30 minutes. Most places that I'm checking are saying that it should be like longer than that, like about an hour or so. Because the immediate high wears off, but then like the jittery symptoms that you get afterwards don't necessarily go away that fast. And it can take up to 24 hours. I think 24 hours may be a long time to ask somebody to wait, but I think it can take up to 24 hours for all of them to fade right away. For all of them to fade all the way, I should say. So when she's coming on here and she's saying, oh, well, I waited 30 minutes, your high might be gone, but I don't think the jitteriness and the other symptoms, the mood symptoms that come after you come down from a high like that, they aren't gone. So how can you sit there and tell me that?
I was careless and I shouldn't have done that.
So easy to dismiss. I was careless, shouldn't have done it. Moving on from that. Do you guys remember when she was using the vape pen just a few days ago in the car? And she's like, oh, it's a tobacco vape. You've never done a tobacco vape in your life. You smoke cigarettes. Get out of here.
You know, just don't do coke and drive. Exactly. No, I'm not making excuses. What I did was I was not fucking asshole.
You're still a fucking asshole because you're still doing it.
And I've been acting like an asshole. Childish asshole.
Good.
Selfish.
Yeah. That's pretty much her entire bio. Childish, selfish asshole.
I don't know why. That's the problem. That's what I need therapy for.
If only you would go to therapy. And it doesn't matter why. Honestly, at this point, it doesn't matter why. I don't care why Chantal is addicted to drugs. I know that I still feel bad that she is, but at some points, like right now, I don't care that you're a drug addict. I don't care that you've got other mental health issues. I don't give a single solitary shit. I just need you to stop. Just stop. Stop first and figure out why later. Stop doing the things now and then work on getting to a better solution. But right now, you are putting other people's lives in danger, and it's unacceptable.
I absolutely don't think physical violence is okay. Maybe I'm willing to excuse it for people I love. I'm not being physically abused right now. Like, that's the thing.
So three really quick thoughts here. One, she's clearing her throat a lot in this video, and I think part of that is probably just leftover remnants from sleep. When the video starts, you can very clearly see, and I think still see them a little bit right now, marks on her face from where she has the sleep apnea machine sitting on her face, and she's still in her nightshirt. She does do a costume change a little bit later. Second, she mentioned that she's willing to abuse physical violence, because of the people that she loves. So you only disagree with physical violence in theory. And it says to me that she has a very low opinion of herself, and B, that I don't think that she's given physical violence and domestic violence any more of a thought than domestic violence bad. You know what I mean? Like a very non-clear, non-specific thought when it comes to domestic violence. And yeah, that's true. Domestic violence bad is a very accurate thought, but also you have to look at it in the context of your best friend was an abuse victim and you yourself are living through an abusive relationship. So I'm amazed that the first instant didn't prompt her to develop a more complex thought pattern around it, and the fact that she finds herself in the second is probably because she never bothered to think on it too deeply. Which once more brings me back to, how do you expect loyalty from someone when you yourself have literally never shown them any of that?
Seem incapable of changing on your own. I think I just need some help, help with understanding. Oh my good grief, the sun is in her hair. Sorry, noise. With just coming to terms with why I behave the way I do. Why am I so extreme? It's like all or nothing for me. I'm just always never satisfied with anything. I can't, just having to get up and escape, and
Go on. I left this in here so you guys can feel as awkward as I felt sitting here, watching her stare into my soul in complete silence. This is terrible. Terrible. And everyone should suffer. A long, prolonged stare ending with, I don't know. Yeah, all of those things are important, and I'm sure they'd help with her personal development, but none of those things are really relevant to anybody else right now. They're not she's using them a lot as like a deflection. She's like, guys, I'm a victim here too. I don't know why I behave the way I behave. Because remember, this is her apology video, and so far she spent more time talking about herself than she has about how this could impact Shannon, of how she's hurt her, of how she could potentially have been a bad friend. None of that. It's like 4 seconds of saying, yeah, shouldn't have said that. The rest of it is deflection, the blame game, you know, like, and sympathy seeking and talking about herself. Where is the reflection of how your actions have impacted the person that you're apologizing to? Because I haven't literally seen a lick of that.
I've been saying a lot lately that you enjoy your life and have fun. It is, like, beezing with you guys, and I don't mean beezing doing self-destructive things. Like, you know how we used to beeze?
Okay. I want people to tell me what she means by this comment. When was she not using beezing in the context of self-destruction? Because she used to say, oh, I'm beezing right now. You guys are beezers. And she used to do this when she was eating massive amounts of food, slowly killing herself on camera in mukbangs. So, yeah, she's traded one addiction for another, but I don't, like, I want someone to give me an example of a self-destructive form of beezing, please. I really, really would like that. If someone could please provide me with that below, I'd really appreciate it, because I can't think of one non-self-destructive way of beezing. Not a single solitary one. Not one.
Just being silly, having fun.
And by the way, you can't have it both ways. You can't both be like, well, you know, I'm having this hard time here. I'm struggling, you guys. You don't understand. It's been really tough. You know, my grandma's sick. All this is happening. You know, I'm like on the rocks with my family. I was in this, you know, really sad situation. You know, Pete's is going through this rough time. And at the same time, be like, yeah, I'm really enjoying parts of my life. And I'm sure that there are parts of her life that she's enjoying. But if you're talking about all of this stuff in the context of self-destruction, and you don't understand that the only fun you seem to have been having was when you were self-destructing, I genuinely don't understand what you think you're going to get here. I genuinely don't understand what growth you're hoping to accomplish when you can't even admit that much to yourself.
No. I'm sorry for coming on here and just acting like out of my mind. Like, I don't know, and just, I guess I didn't see.
I'm sorry for coming out here and just acting out of my mind. An example of that you guys just saw last night when I was like out of my mind. It wasn't, you know, my own actions. It was because obviously there's something wrong with me, and therefore I am the victim here, and you should feel bad for me. Don't hold me accountable to I was wronged as well, you guys. I'm in the same boat as you.
That, you know, I just think it's weed. It's just weed is harmless. But it's replacing another addiction, basically. So in essence, even though it's not technically an addictive substance, it's become one for me.
Yeah. Ding, 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 ding. Someone give the lady a prize. She's finally acknowledged what every person on the internet has been telling her, what I'm sure her doctor would tell her if she'd be deigned to speak with them.
Now, am I going to stop using? Probably not.
Frustration. Okay. I come on here and I tell you guys, listen, the internet is ruining my life. I'm using it to self-destruct in public. Am I going to stop being on the internet? No. Do you see how moronic that is? Because you're saying that it's bad for you, but you're unwilling to stop. So literally you've done nothing. Literally there is no point in having this conversation with you over and over again. You are doing something that's destructive to you, and it's having a negative impact on yourself and everyone around you. To say that you still will not stop is disrespectful to everybody else that it does impact. Okay? Because right now, it's just, oh, a little too much weed. I was just doing a little bit too much. Next time it will be, I'm in the hospital because I wrecked my fucking car at 4 a.m. looking for a fucking Nashville chicken sandwich, high as balls out of my mind on weed. Yeah? That's where this is headed. And so you're going to call your uncle again. You're going to call your mom again. You're going to tell your aunt in Jamaica that I'm coming to Jamaica again. We're going to go through this whole fucking cycle all over again. And all it's going to do is get you back to the exact same position where you're here now. You need to stop one way or the other. All the drugs need to go away. All of them. Every single one of them needs to go away. You need to stop with all the mind-altering substances. 100%. Everything. No alcohol, no drugs, no microdosing. You don't even know what fucking microdosing is. The word micro is in there. It means small. None of that. None of that shit. None of that. Only the medication your doctor prescribes you and therapy. Therapy for you for 1,000 years.
The edibles, yes. Maybe I should stop using those for a while.
All the time.
Like,
forever.
slow down.
Forever. People who have addictions for their entire lives. You are in recovery. It's called recovery for a reason. You don't cure addictions. You recover from addictions. There's a reason why that terminology exists. People who are alcoholics are sober. They're not no longer alcoholics because that temptation, once you've been to that place, is so strong that the vast majority of people can never indulge in it again. And Chantal has an immensely addictive personality. She is in no place to be thinking, oh, maybe I could just do a little bit. Maybe a little bit is fine for me. It's not like I went down that path before. Remember when I only did a little bit of cocaine and then never became addicted? That's not her. She cannot moderate. And I don't think that's going to change with therapy. I think that she might be better at being less extreme in other areas of her life. But when it comes to drug use, I don't think that's ever going to change because the temptation is always just there.
So since I already talked about the thing with Shannon, I'll tell you what really happened.
Yeah, go ahead. Spew more information out there about someone who clearly doesn't want the information out there because she doesn't have any topics of her own to talk about. So she's got to use other people. She's got to drag other people's drama into this, right? But we're the ones abusing her. We're the ones taking advantage of her name here. Yeah, right.
She's not a bad mom. She's a really good mom.
And yet she went online and she said, I wonder what your kids think that their mom is on here lying about her friend of 20 years. But she's a real good mom. She's a real good. So what you're saying is that you were weaponizing what her children against her before, knowing that they have no impact on her relationship to you. You're just being a giant pile of steaming, heaping shit before.
Her kid is grown. Her kids are pretty much grown. Like, it was just her graduation for her older daughter. It was a college thing. It was just like, you know, like she's going to college and everything.
Don't disclose this information. This was not information that we had before. It was not. And Shannon didn't choose to make it public. You should not be saying any of this shit. And do not drag those kids into it either. They have nothing to do with you being a giant turd on the internet. Can you imagine being friends with someone and them telling you out of the nowhere when you have not been really close with them for a while, hey, I'm being abused and I need someone to talk to, and this is what it gets you? Your kid's name in their mouth on the internet in front of their toxic audience? I mean this 100%. I would file a restraining order. I would file every legal thing I possibly could. I'm not saying that's how Shannon should handle it. I'm not giving anybody advice here. I'm not saying this is what anyone else should do or that this is what, is the appropriate action. None at all. I'm speaking for my own personal person. That if this was me in Shannon's situation, this is what I would do. And if she still didn't stop, I would fucking slash every single one of her tires because I have anger issues that I've worked on for a very long period of time. And as you can see, I'm not handling them well right now. She brings this out of me. Oh my God.
We just did. I brought it and I said, do some with me.
So what you're saying is that you were the garbage person in that situation as well. You were the dom in that situation, as it were. You were the one who inflicted this on her and her family. You're the bad influence. No one should be friends with Chantal. I think that Chantal is a bad person to be friends with. I think that she's going to drag you down with her in her misery, because Chantal is an emotional black hole. She sucks in everything around her. She pulls everyone in, and then you drown in her misery with her.
Am I an asshole for bringing that? Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like pretty much in like the full throes of my addiction with it at the time.
That was all for her video. The last part of it, I think I cut out my bit, so I'm just going to repeat it here, where she says, well, I was in the full throes of my addiction then, and, you know, that's why I did that, and blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter that you were in the full throes of your addiction. The drug is a drug. You made your own choices. I am not a believer in forgiving people for their choices. It's not like an automatic forgiveness. Forgiveness has to be earned, first of all. Second of all, you have to show that you have changed as a human being, which Chantal hasn't, because I don't think she's capable of any kind of change without serious outside help. And fundamentally, you're still an asshole, because you're still talking about things that she doesn't want talked about on the internet. So no. I started this video in a pretty positive mood. I had a conversation with Shannon, and I sort of deduced some of the stuff that she said there on her own, on my own, sorry. But it was really nice talking to her. She's a very like pleasant person. She was very like forthcoming with information. She shared as much as she wanted to share, and I hope she didn't feel pressured at all. Shannon, if you're watching this, I hope you didn't feel pressured. I really didn't want to pressure you there. I tried to give you as much space as I could, and, you know, just let you talk through it on your own. This is not like a situation that I know how to deal with intimately. Like, I'm like a person, and I haven't always been the greatest to my romantic partners, but like, I'm not the piece of shit that Chantal is, so I don't do this to my friends. So I don't know what the situation, I don't know what the protocol here is. You know, I pulled as much information out of my like limited repertoire of how to fix things when your friends are going through a hard thing, and I mostly just try to stay silent so I don't make things worse. But I'm sorry if you did feel pressured. Please, like, let me know. You guys know this. I'm like perfectly willing and open to criticism here. I'm gonna go, because I'm in a bad mood now, and I'm gonna go and do something that makes me happy. So there's a camera on the internet that like just live streams from like an adoption center that has kittens. I'll go do that, or if I don't feel better, I'll go to PetSmart where they have actual little cats, and I'll go play with them, because I'm now in an actual bad mood. She just frustrates me. She frustrates me, and she makes me upset. It is not, I don't care that you are sick. I don't care that you're having addiction issues. I don't care that you're having mental health issues. You're a piece of turd because you're a piece of turd. All those things are secondary. And if you're not willing to work on yourself, you're not willing to fix them with actual help and therapy and medication, then I don't have to give you any kind of grace in this situation. I try as much as possible to give Chantal as much grace as I can, because I know that she has a hard time, and I know that she has mental health concerns. But there is a limit to my love. All credit for that goes to James Blake. But there is a limit. There's a limit to my grace. There is a limit to my empathy. There's a limit to everything. And you are hitting the upper limits of every person in your life. Fuck the internet. Seriously, fuck the internet and everybody on it. You're doing this to everyone in your personal life, which is why you are all alone. And if you keep doing this, you're going to end up alone, and you're going to end up dying alone. As sad as that is. You're going to end up dying completely alone, surrounded by nothing and no one but filth and your cats, maybe. I'm in a bad mood. I love you guys. Thank you guys so much for everyone that's still watching. You guys know the spiel. Thumbs up, thumbs down, comment. Subscribe if you haven't already subscribed. Twitter, Instagram, Patreon. Thank you guys so much to my patrons. I really, really appreciate you guys. You guys genuinely make a lot of this happen for me. Special thank you to Oceana Songs and D. Higgins. You guys are my $25 patrons. I love you, and the fact that you guys have continued support in me, just, it blows my mind. Like, if I think about it for too long, I'm going to cry, because there's like people on the internet who think this highly of me, and I don't really know what to do with that. And as someone who suffered with a lot of like low self-esteem issues, it's ridiculous to me that there's anyone on the internet who still has faith in me. So thank you guys so much. I hope I wasn't too angry. I hope I didn't come across as too belligerent, but I feel like that's how like most of my recent videos have been going. Like, I start off in a good mood. I try and aim to film at a time where I'm feeling like good and happy, and then it just deteriorates. So yeah, I'm gonna go. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm Jasmine, the sequel, and I am not relatable. And as always, peace. A special thank you to my patrons, Acrophobe, Ariel M, Christina, Courtney EP, Dane TB, Jam Beans, Sidra Z, Colleen L, Debbie Elliott, Just a Jude, Kate O, and a special thank you to my $25 patrons, D Higgins and Oceana Song.